The Forgotten Diver of Sterkfontein Caves. It was September 1984, a warm weekend afternoon in South Africa. Three seasoned divers, Nuno Gomez, Peter Verhel, and Malcolm, geared up for what seemed like a routine cave dive. The trio wasn't new to this. They'd explored some of the most complex underwater systems around. But this time, their destination had a deeper pull: Sterkfontein Caves. Known for its fossil treasures and submerged chambers, it held secrets of early human life. That allure was impossible to resist. Nuno, the most experienced among them, had scouted this same route just 2 weeks earlier. Confident, composed, and skilled, he led the dive. Peter followed with his trademark adventurous spirit, and Malcolm brought a calm, calculated presence to the team. As they made their way through the elephant chamber, named after a rock formation that oddly resembled an elephant's trunk, everything felt under control. After a claustrophobic 120 meters of narrow passageways, they arrived at a small, oval-shaped chamber. It was tight, just 3 meters wide and a meter high, but the air buzzed with excitement. They were possibly standing in a place untouched by humans for millions of years. But the return trip took a sudden turn. Swimming in single file, Nuno, Malcolm, and Peter bringing up the rear, Malcolm noticed Peter had veered off again. Known for straying off course in search of hidden gems, Peter's curiosity had led him to a side tunnel. He eventually returned to the group, but the energy had shifted. They continued, entering the Milner Hall chamber, a vast space with winding side passages and hidden cavities. It was here that Peter disappeared again. No lights, no bubbles, no sound. The chamber's size made it impossible to tell whether Peter had simply fallen behind or taken another wrong turn. Nuno and Malcolm waited, then searched. Every safe passage was combed through. Still no Peter. With oxygen running low, they had no choice but to surface. The first rescue divers, the fire brigade, refused to go in. They lacked the cave diving expertise. It wasn't until Nuno contacted Craig Stevenson, a fellow diver familiar with the route, that the search resumed. They plunged back in, fighting silt-filled water that reduced visibility to less than a meter. But still, nothing. Eventually, police took over. Days passed. The mission shifted from rescue to recovery. What no one knew was that Peter was still alive, lost deep in the cave, barely holding on. His curiosity had led him far beyond the safety of the main line, and before he realized it, he was lost. The feeling of being lost in a cave isn't just disorienting, it's mentally crushing. At first, he denied it, but the panic hit quickly. Peter swam in circles, his air was running low. Then a glimmer, a silvery reflection above. He found a tiny air chamber with a small patch of dry ground. It was a sliver of hope in a hellish place. Alone, without any way to call for help, Peter did what he could. He rationed air, he shut off his flashlight. He wrote messages on the cave wall. "I love you, Shirley," and Mom. 6 weeks later, Nuno and a friend returned to explore a potential connection between the dry and submerged systems. They found it, and heartbreak. Peter's body was found near a sump, just 100 meters from a dry exit. He had survived for 3 weeks before starvation claimed him. His last messages were haunting reminders of a life that slipped away in silence and stone. Floyd Collins, the cave that became a tomb. In 1925, Kentucky was deep in the cave wars. Local cave owners competed ruthlessly to attract tourists, turning underground adventures into big business. For William Floyd Collins, this was more than competition. This was his shot at success. He found Sand Cave, just 100 yards from the highway. Perfect location. Floyd struck a deal with the property owners and began widening the passages by hand. Days of digging, weeks of dedication. Finally, it was ready. On January 30th, he entered the cave alone. Armed with a kerosene lantern and sheer determination, he pushed through the squeeze. A tunnel so tight it was barely large enough for a child. But Floyd wasn't most people. He was determined to reach the main cavern. He made it. A large, open space sprawled before him. Sand Cave was real. Then disaster struck. As he made his way back, his lantern slipped and shattered. Darkness. Disoriented, he moved cautiously, but one rock shifted, and another, until a boulder fell and pinned his left leg. Trapped, no one came for nearly 24 hours. When his friends finally arrived, they found only his torso visible. His cries for help were weak but clear. Floyd's brothers rushed in, digging to widen the tunnel. One even brought in a journalist who managed to crawl in and interview Floyd for a nationwide radio audience. For days, America listened in real time to Floyd's fading voice. But the cave didn't care. The warmth from the massive crowds melted snow, turning the cave slick and dangerous. More collapses, more delays. By the time a rescue shaft finally reached him, it was too late. Floyd Collins died in that cave. His body remained there for months. His story became legend, and Sand Cave was sealed forever. During those agonizing final days, Floyd tried to stay upbeat, even joking with visitors about craving fried chicken and dreaming of sunlight. But beneath the humor was pain and hopelessness. The cave's narrow walls pressed against his chest, limiting every breath, while freezing water slowly seeped through the rocks around him. Dozens of volunteers took shifts, digging, crawling, and calling out his name, clinging to the idea he could still be saved. Reporters swarmed the scene, turning it into a full-blown media circus. Vendors sold hot dogs and coffee above the shaft, while radios blared hourly updates across the nation. It was surreal. A man dying underground while a crowd gathered above as if it were a fair. Meanwhile, Floyd remained trapped in silence and solitude. His brother Homer refused to give up, returning over and over to the dark crevice to hold his hand and comfort him. But nature was unyielding. When the final collapse cut off all access, it was as if the cave had swallowed him whole. America mourned a man they never knew because his courage, his struggle, and his voice from the depths felt like something deeper, a shared human fear of being buried, unheard, and alone. Nutty Putty Cave, the final descent of John Edward Jones. It was supposed to be a quick adventure, just a simple Thanksgiving weekend caving trip to Nutty Putty Cave in Utah. John Edward Jones, a medical student, joined by his brother Josh and 9 others, was no stranger to caves. He grew up in them, but Nutty Putty was different. One way in, one way out, and full of perilous squeezes. John and Josh wanted to explore the birth canal section, but took a wrong turn into Ed's Push, an uncharted nightmare of narrow corkscrews and traps. John thought he saw an opening ahead. He pressed forward, then down, then further, until he found himself head down in a shaft just 10 inches wide, stuck, completely upside down. Josh tried to pull him out, couldn't budge him. The rescue began, but the position, the angle, and the tight space made it almost impossible. Over the next 27 hours, a team of 20 rescuers tried everything. Pulleys, ropes, even considering breaking John's legs to free him, but nothing worked. John's body slowly shut down, his heart, his lungs, compressed by the position and the weight of gravity. At 11:56 p.m. on November 25th, John was pronounced dead, his body still in the cave. Nutty Putty Cave was sealed forever with concrete, his body entombed inside Jennifer Gilbreth and Gollum's cave. It was a dinner conversation that turned into a midnight dare. 5 friends talking about a hidden cave near BYU campus in Utah, known only to a few as Gollum's Cave. Jennifer Gilbreth had been there before. She had passed out inside once due to hypothermia, and yet she wanted to go back. At 2 a.m., Jennifer, Blake, Ariel, and Scott entered the cave. Only Joseph stayed behind. Inside, the entrance led to a water-filled tunnel just 2 feet wide and 4 feet high. Visibility, almost none. 1 flashlight, 1 rope. Jennifer went first, then Ariel, then Blake and Scott. Inside, they surfaced into a chamber no more than 9 feet high, but the air was toxic. Low oxygen levels, too much CO2. Every breath became harder. Jennifer tried to leave first but panicked mid-swim. Ariel followed, only to run into Jennifer's body, then Blake, then Scott. 4 drowned, trapped in a tunnel meant for one at a time. Joseph waited outside until sunrise. He knew something was wrong. Rescuers arrived. They pumped air and water from the cave. Eventually, they recovered the bodies, each facing the exit. So close, and yet not close enough. John Waddell and the gold mine of Arizona. John Waddell was no amateur. 60 years old, former EMT, lifelong miner. He was convinced a gold strike waited for him in an abandoned mine shaft northwest of Phoenix. On October 15, 2018, he descended into the shaft using a pulley system. Routine stuff until the pulley snapped. He plummeted down, his leg snapping with a sickening twist. The ankle dislocated, bones cracked. Alone, no food, no water. His flashlight died. Rattlesnakes crawled around him. One slid beneath his arm. He struck it dead, then another. Same outcome. He set his own broken leg using sticks and raw determination. No meds, no rescue. He popped the blisters on his hands to suck the moisture from them, just to survive. Then a sound, an engine. Terry, his friend, had come looking. Tears filled John's eyes. He was saved. After 6 hours of stabilizing and pulling him out, John was taken to the hospital. He survived, and still, he talked about going back for the gold. Grant and Michael in Ellison's cave. 10 students, 1 leader, 1 fatal mistake. Grant Lackenbach led his group of college friends into Ellison's cave in Georgia. Known for its depth and deadly vertical drops, it wasn't a place for amateurs. After a backpack fell into a 125-foot pit, Grant volunteered to retrieve it. Ignoring his friends' warnings, he descended into the cold, misty darkness. Halfway down, soaked by a waterfall, freezing, Grant became tangled in his rope, stuck. Michael, his best friend, went down after him. Now both were trapped. They screamed. Their friends tried to help, but the cold was merciless. Rescuers arrived, but it was too late. They found Grant and Michael frozen and lifeless, entangled in a rope, wrapped in the same nightmare that had taken their final breath. Donald's last mission in Crooked Swamp Cave. Donald, a scout leader, was used to leading young boys through caves. This time, he brought his 2 sons. The entrance was tight, just 16 inches tall, but Donald believed he could squeeze through. He did, but a slippery turn sent him sliding into a 5-inch wide crevice. Stuck badly. His sons ran for help. Rescuers came fast, but the angle was brutal. Every pull made things worse. Even the smallest rescuers, some just over 5 feet tall, couldn't reach him. The rock above was solid bedrock. Jackhammers couldn't break it. Time ticked on. Hypothermia set in. After nearly 72 hours trapped, Donald died in that crevice. The cave was sealed off. Another chapter closed in underground tragedy. Before his final moments, Donald tried to remain calm, whispering words of reassurance to his sons as they cried from above. Every time rescuers called his name, he responded faintly, clinging to hope with what little strength he had left. One rescuer managed to reach close enough to pass down a hand warmer, but it barely helped against the cave's brutal chill. The temperature dropped by the hour, and moisture from the walls soaked his clothing. His body, wedged at a downward angle, slowly began to shut down. He asked the rescuers to tell his wife he loved her, knowing deep down the odds were fading. His boys kept watch from outside the tunnel, refusing to leave, their voices breaking as they begged him to hold on. One rescuer noted how Donald kept a steady tone, never letting fear overcome him in front of the scouts. Even trapped and helpless, he remained their leader. As the final hours passed, his responses slowed and then stopped. The cave went silent. A father, a mentor, a man of courage. Lost to the earth he had taught so many to respect, his story remains a stark lesson in humility, preparation, and the unforgiving nature of the underground world. These stories are more than just cautionary tales. They're chilling reminders of the raw, unrelenting power of nature, and how even the most prepared, most experienced adventurers can still fall victim to the unknown. Caves hide history, mystery, and danger in equal measure, and sometimes they never let go. If this story sent chills down your spine, Help us tell more epic stories just like this. Subscribe to our channel.